Hey everybody, it's Party Elite here with another episode of Total Breakdown. Xiphos comes in today again as the knights who say ni, this time taking the Norscans to the field against the vampire counts of Aristodemos II, playing as Surtha Ek. We begin of course with talk of composition and deployment just to make sure that nothing is beyond anyone's comprehension. Beginning, of course, with Norsca over here. Take a look at this beautiful, aesthetically pleasing deployment, by the way. Now, they are being led by Throg, anti-large, and armor-piercing. He will be causing a fair bit of hurt. And we have a Fimir Balefiend with fire here as well. A good call. They're bringing in that fire damage, bringing in the Kindle Flame ability as well against the vampire counts, who will have units that have regenerative capabilities. The front line consists of these 4 units of Marauder champions. High armor over here, decent melee stats as well. They wouldn't have any trouble with the typical skeleton front line or some Graveguard either. Right behind them, we do have these Marauder hunters with javelins. Anti-large javelins will cause some damage to potential crypt horrors or terrorgeists or anything like that, while we also have these Fimir warriors with their great weapons back here, armor piercing and anti-large as well. A great combination here. Good to deal with the typical double layer front line that vampire counts tend to bring. At the back, meanwhile, we've got a pair of Marauder Spearmen, just providing some more anti-large support, while in the middle over here you can see the Brutes of the Hound, the Marauder Berserkers, who will have the higher level of Rage, which is Berserk. That'll increase their physical resistance and melee attack significantly as time goes on in battle. Now let's take a look at the vampire counts. And these vampire counts are being led by none other than Vlad the Dad, and you can see that double layer front line that I was discussing earlier. We've got that main front line of alternating Graveguard and Skeleton Warriors, and right behind them we've got these 3 units of Crypt Horrors, and again, Crypt Horrors have regeneration, which means they are weak to fire to begin with. Up in the air, you can see we've got 3 units of Fellbats already moving forward, hoping to harass potentially, while we also have this Terrorgeist back here, anti-large and armor piercing, but also has regeneration. Then all the way to the back, we have 3 units of Skeleton Spearmen, and in the middle at the back over here, we have the Corpse Cart with the Unholy Lodestone, trying to provide some support to melee stats and also regenerative capabilities, while all the way off to the side over here, Vanguard deployed, we have the Dire Pack, the Dire Wolf Regiment of Renown, anti-large, able to push in and cause a little bit of damage to large enemy units. So let's see how this all breaks down. You can see right away we have the Norscans moving forward confidently, slowly, while the Fellbats are pushing off to the sides here, maybe looking for an opportunity to dive in and take care of those Marauder Hunters with their javelins. They've spotted that unit. They are pretty threatening because of their anti-large capabilities, especially when the front line consists of these Crypt Horrors, and we have the Terrorgeist as well, so it would be a good idea to sort of nullify those Marauder Hunters with their javelins. The Terrorgeist as well, you can see pulling off to the side over here, while we have our first fireball of the battle, firing squarely at these Crypt Horrors, trying to send a message to kick things off, and doing so wonderfully. Take a look at that. 1 fireball, Kindle Flame active, of course, and that takes the fire weakness up to 47% because of Kindle Flame compiled on top of regeneration, and that absolutely drops one of the Crypt Horrors. So sending a message loud and clear right from the beginning that the Norscans are not here to play around. Down goes that Crypt Horror, and you can see we've got these lines slowly converging towards each other. Throg leading from the front, these Fellbats looking for an opportunity to dive in as these Marauders with their javelins turn around and start firing away in response. We've got the Terrorgeist over here as well, quite threatening, while up front you can see we have the Fellbats diving in towards these Marauder champions, holding them in place, preventing them from countercharging and losing out on their charge bonus, minimal as it might be. Over here you can see the javelins are being tossed, getting a little bit of damage in as countercharges for the rest of the front lines continue onwards. At the same time, these Fellbats are moving in to shut down these Marauder Hunters before they get too much work done into the Crypt Horrors. And to the left over here you can see the Fimir Warriors with their great weapons dive right in against the Skeleton Warriors, the Crypt Horrors, and the Graveguard, doing a lot of work there. Over here the Brutes of the Hound turn around to provide some support, and in the center Throg decides to dive in and take a look at these Crypt Horrors already being taken care of, pulling back into safety quite tactically, quite wisely, while over here Master of Beguilement does go down, and that's a good call, reducing the melee attack of Throg, but unfortunately Fight or Die is active as well, buffing his melee attack, and so they sort of balance each other out for a nice even 42 on Throg. He's still going to cause a fair bit of damage. Vlad, you can see as well, sort of waltzing in there, trying to get some support in, while at the same time we have a rather beautiful cast and a beautiful use of the Flaming Sword of Ruin. Again, the Flaming Sword of Ruin not only buffs weapon damage here, but it also increases, or rather adds, fire damage. It's been overcast for the extended effect duration, and again, for those Crypt Horrors, this spells absolute doom, especially when the Fimir Warriors with their great weapons have armor piercing and anti-large to begin with, and now they have fire damage as well. So beautifully done, great placement as well, balancing support back here, as well as to the front left and the front center. You can see the Terrorgeist as well looking for an opportunity to dive in somewhere, while Vlad is getting a cast in, trying to bring some summoned units in to provide some assistance in shutting down these Marauder Hunters over here. At the same time, to the right flank, you can see the Femur Warriors are unfortunately bogged down by these Fellbats. They should have been sent up to deal with these Crypt Horrors, but with that said, it's not like the front lines are struggling too much. On the right flank over here, you can see the Marauder Champions are absolutely defeating these Graveguard with minimal struggle, and over here, taking a bit of a beating from the Crypt Horrors, but these Marauder Champions are going to do all right as well. Back here, meanwhile, you can see we do have these Skeleton Warriors coming out from underneath the ground, holding these Brutes of the Hound in place. A little unfortunate there. I think these Marauder Hunters with Javelins were just able to dodge. Very nicely done there, but the Terrorgeist, you can see, using its fiery breath there to, I think, hurt this unit of Marauder Hunters with Javelins. Again, just trying to balance the damage between both of these Javelin-armed units, hoping to eliminate the anti-large ranged capabilities. They will thwart the Terrorgeist if the Terrorgeist isn't wise like this. So well played, well thought out, and now the Terrorgeist desperately needs to dive into something large, something armored. It is armor piercing and anti-large. It needs to do something here to get some work done. You can see it turns around and decides to push into the backs of these Marauder Champions. Not a terrible call, but Throg responds immediately, dives right in over here and hits, well, these Crypt Horrors over here, reducing their will to fight significantly. But you can see the Femur Balefiend dives in as well, and at the same time, we still have that Flaming Sword of Ruin active, which is terrible for the Terrorgeist. In response, we have the Invocation of the Heck coming in, and we also have these zombies being added to the fray over here, coming in from the rear, hoping to, I think, cause some morale damage and maybe cause that center to break. To the left, though, you can see we have the Crypt Horrors falling apart thanks to these Femur Warriors with their great weapons, and to the right now, you can see as well, we have these Marauder Champions coming out on top, truly champions, while in the middle, you can see these Javelins being flung in to great effect, focusing in on the Terrorgeist. Take a look at the amount of damage being done there to health and to morale, while back here, the Dire Pack was able to dive into these Marauder Hunters. Beautifully done, and you can see over here as well, we've got another summon coming through, another unit of Skeleton Warriors coming in to try and eliminate these Marauder Hunters with Javelins, but these Brutes of the Hound turn around and dive in immediately to try and rescue those very essential units. At the same time, the Terrorgeist, you can see, is pulling back into safety, trying to take to the air and stay alive, but those Javelins continue to come through, persist, and get it down to critical binding, very close to crumbling, and the Invocation of the Heck comes in to try and help the front line survive over here. A little unfortunate, as the Terrorgeist could have used some of that assistance, should have maybe stayed in there before that Invocation of the Heck came in, but you can see right now, using its breath ability, I think, once more, now back here to hit some of these Marauder Spearmen, perhaps get a little bit of damage spreading among those anti-large units, but again, the Terrorgeist needs to dive in to something large and something armored. It's anti-large, it's got a decent charge bonus on it, a lot of weapon strength as well. If it pushes into the Femur Balefiend, maybe dives into the Femur Warriors, or even Throg, gets a nice charge in on Throg, it can do a lot of hurt, spending a lot of time up in the air and not getting those clean charges in. And even now, you can see it decides to dive into these Marauder Hunters with their Javelins, rather than into something larger back here. These Spears as well, waiting, I think, for that Terrorgeist to commit to something up front before diving in. Cleverly done there. They're waiting in reserve. That's not a bad idea at all. They're not just sitting pretty. The Terrorgeist, you can see, immediately once more needing to pull back and take to the air as these Marauder Spearmen poke and prod and drive it back and drive it into the air. Up front once more, you can see the situation continues to be for the Norskins. To the left flank, they're having a bit of a harder time, but these Crypt Horrors are absolutely melting away. They're falling apart in the center as well. These Crypt Horrors do not stand a chance. Finally, these Marauder Spearmen decide to dive in and provide that extra support, while you can also see at the same time, we do have Master Beguilement going down on Throg once more. The Terrorgeist now taking a look at its options once more, looking for a place that it can dive into, and finally, I think, deciding to dive in towards the center clump, hits Throg with a beautiful charge there, drops his health instantaneously. Take a look at that, already down to 50%. That's what the Terrorgeist needs to do, but immediately the Femur Balefiend of Fire decides to pull in from behind, gets a nice rear charge. The Terrorgeist is down to 50% health as well, 50% morale. We've got these Femur Warriors with great weapons pushing in as well, and what could this augment cast be? Nothing other than, of course, the Flaming Sword of Ruin, bringing in that fire damage, ruining the day for the Terrorgeist over here. Take a look at that morale drop. The Terrorgeist needs to pull back, and quite wisely done as well. In comes the Invocation of the Heck. The Terrorgeist takes to the air to stay alive. That morale immediately replenishes. Very nicely done. And again, you can see Throg here supporting this right flank, now looking for a place to get involved wherever he can provide some assistance. The Terrorgeist turns around, almost dives into these Marauder Hunters, but then takes back to the air as Throg is right there. Very wisely done there. And you can see over here the Femur Warriors are having a great time against these puny infantry units. The Brutes of the Hound get hit there by a little breath attack from the Terrorgeist, but again, just not as effective as diving into, say, the Femur Balefiend over here. And the Terrorgeist decides to do exactly that. Dives in, and take a look at that. Drops health to 25% within 3 seconds. Between 2 strikes now, down by another, well, down to like 10%, down to nearly dead. This Femur Balefiend's fate has been decided, but immediately the javelins you can see coming in now, trying to keep this Terrorgeist at bay. That's what the Terrorgeist needs to do more. Needs to take to the air and dive back into Throg. Throg is in a bit of a trouble situation as well. He is at 50% health. Vlad is in there causing a lot of damage. He is using fight or die to stay alive, Throg, to keep that fight alive and keep leadership up as well, but it might not be enough as we have some more zombies diving in as well. But at the same time, you can see these Marauder champions beautifully done over here. They finished up their work on this right flank. Now they just pushed forward and curled around, and now they're going to try and get some nice rear charges onto the left flank. Nicely done, elegantly done. Great thinking there. The rear charges are going to bring in the morale damage that is needed to make these guys all crumble away. Nice to see. Rare to see, in fact, as well. Such a long-distance maneuver, and cleverly done as well. Not committing to this center here, the shorter distance, and instead moving to this far side. That did need some assistance because of these Marauder champions that were in a bit of a bad state. So you can see that left flank is very quickly now falling away, melting apart, and we do have the balance of power now finally shifting in favor of the Norscans, but that Terrorgeist is still looking to dive in. Vlad is still at full health, able to chase down Throg potentially, and if the Terrorgeist gets some nice charges into Throg as well, then Throg might actually fall, and that might spell doom for the Norscans, but you can see the Terrorgeist instead decides to dive in over here. The Brutes of the Hound are right there. We have these spears as well from the Marauder Spearmen. The Femur Warriors with great weapons thankfully get terrified, so they are going to turn away, but Throg gets a nice charge into the Terrorgeist. Master Beguilement is active on him, reducing his melee attack to just 16 now, and Vlad, again, trying to get involved here, trying to dive in. We have another summon coming in as well, trying to bring some units in to hold everything in place, I think, so that Vlad can chase down Throg. Up goes the Terrorgeist once more into safety. Good cycle charging, good awareness there. Very fast clicking required right now to keep that Terrorgeist alive and functioning well. You can see Master Beguilement still active, and so Throg is staying away from any engagements. The Terrorgeist, though, wasting some time up in the air, needs to come right back down and engage immediately. There's a golden opportunity right now. Throg has Master Beguilement active. He's sort of isolated, but now it's too late, of course, because these Femur Warriors with great weapons are there as well, and in comes the Flaming Sword of Ruin once more. Unfortunately, that's the time the Terrorgeist decides to dive in, fully surrounded by Throg. Femur Warriors with great weapons. Not a good scene at all. Not a good sight. Not a good spot. Vlad is going to do well enough. Of course, he's not having a tough time in these situations, but the Terrorgeist is going to fall. And just like that, GG. And the Norscans take a Pyrrhic victory. Of course, without a chariot in sight, Surtha Ek was bound to fail. In all seriousness, though, the Norscan composition and magical choices were built for the traditional two-layer Vampire Count front line. Fire damage through magic to help counter regeneration, and the inherent weakness to fire it brings, anti-large units peppered around, including an anti-large commander, and a focus on armored, non-armor piercing units. With that said, if the Terrorgeist had been better managed, the battle could have turned very quickly. We saw that a few charges nearly killed Throg and the Femur Balefiend. If those surgical strikes had come sooner and more often, the battle may have turned out quite differently. As always, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more Total War content and keep sending in those battle replays. I do think it's one of the best ways to learn, and it's always nice to highlight such amazing battles from the community. I'd also like to thank all of my patrons for supporting the channel every month. It makes a massive difference and helps the channel stay alive and well. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.